Okay, we should be going live. And we're live. So cool. Well, thanks for joining our community call. And let me enlarge my slides here so hopefully you can all see what I'm sharing. Cool. So yeah, welcome to the September community call. I know, I noticed some of you have taken some time off over the summer. So if you did, hopefully you enjoyed your vacation and back refreshed. So just a quick reminder before we get started, all of our events, including virtual ones, we operate under the community code of conduct. So just want to remind people of that, and you can see the details in our repo on the markdown file for code of conduct. In terms of our agenda, it's probably somewhat typical. We have the usual community news and product updates and feature demos that we'll go over in a minute. But I'm really excited about Igor's here. We're going to talk about a lot of great recipes that his team's been putting together furiously over the past month or so. So we're very excited about that. So without further ado, that we'll get started. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or type questions in the chat. Feel free to interrupt us as we go along. Cool. In terms of community news, I think some of you were on the pre-aggregations workshop we did exactly 3 weeks ago. This is our very first events outside of a monthly call, so we were somewhat anxious about how it will go. But for us at Cube, it just really exceeded our expectations on many fronts. So, and that we really have a lot of community members to thank for that. Not only registering and attending, but your participation was very active during the workshop, which was great. My big fear going in was, people would not have any questions, would not have any comments, but that went out the window, I think, in the first few minutes. So that interactivity was great. So thanks for everyone who attended, participated, and even watch the recordings afterwards on YouTube channel. So we're very happy that it went well. And like I mentioned, if you happen to miss the workshop, you can look for our workshop playlist in our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find it. It's only posting there on the for their playlist, but go take a look. So some of the cool stats that I want to share regarding the workshop, we had over 180 people register. Which went far beyond what I even hoped for when we started. And then interestingly, this number is a somewhat typical both for in-person and virtual events. What I found in my experience is that, not that I've been to all of the events, typically about half the people attend, half the registered people attend the event, and that turned out to be the case this time around. So we had over 90 attendees, and I was, I think my jaw was about down here as soon as we get started. So that was great. And then in terms of views on YouTube, a couple of days ago, we surpassed 400 views. So I don't know what the number is today. So there was a lot of interest, not just in terms of people attending, but I got pinged from people in Australia. It would have been 2 a.m. their time, so it's not reasonable for them to join us live. So a lot of them did view on YouTube, which we're grateful for. And the other, the final point I want to highlight, this goes back to the participation of our community members. About half the attendees actually filled out the post-event survey form, which is, I don't think I've ever experienced that. In general, if we get 20 to 30% responding to post-event surveys, you're doing pretty well. And we got nearly half the people responding to surveys, taking their time. And also a lot of them, out of the 45, about half of them actually provided open-ended comments, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I really appreciate that. I mean, it really helps us not only look back on what we did on our first event, but help us improve for our future events as well, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Um, just wanted to share some like a feedback stats. I mean, in spirit of transparency on the survey results. So if you look at, I think we had about exactly like the questions with numerical scores. So I mean, numbers are pretty healthy, all between like a 4 and 5. I personally would like to get the overall satisfaction rate above like 4.5. We'll see if we can get there for our next event. But overall, in terms of like things like announcement, registration, slides, content, et cetera, I think we've done. We're pretty happy with how people responded for our first event. Obviously, we have areas that we want to improve on, but we're pretty happy with the survey results. I mean, some of the open-ended comments at the bottom of the slide, I want to share. I mean, a couple of things. Like, I mean, I appreciate a lot of people said, a lot of people have very positive feedback, which we're grateful for. But there are definitely areas that we can probably improve on. I mean, first one was that people, because we were using Cube Cloud, because it makes for working lab sessions easier, makes provisioning easier. So I think people were somewhat confused that a lot of the features that Ryan was talking about was only available in the cloud, which isn't the case. And I think I listened to the recording after the event, and I think both me and Ryan like stressed that a lot of these features were available also in open source, although we're demoing it on Cube Cloud. But I don't think that came through very clearly. So we'll try to improve on that next time around. I mean, there was even one question on the chat about, is pre-aggregation even available on Cube.js? And obviously it is, but I think from making that clear, I think we can do a better job. The other feedback, this wasn't that surprising. I think not 100% sure how what specific measures we'll take on this, but I think there was some comments about balancing the content for beginners and like very experienced users who's been using like pre-aggregation for like a long time, like 6 to 12 months. So I know that's always tricky. I mean, maybe one of the things we could do is, I mean, I think Pavel spent about 15 minutes on introduction. Maybe we can, potentially shorten that up, but also suggest some like pre-readings that we encourage people to do, like, reading certain pages on docs so that we don't need to cover those. So maybe that's something that we'll look at, but yeah, we'll definitely look into how we can improve that for our future workshops. And I mean, I guess the last one is a positive one. I mean, people definitely want to see more of it on various topics. So one of the questions we asked was, what are some of the topics that you want to see for future workshops? And I mean, you'll see the results on upper right. So by far, the most popular one was multi-tenancy, which isn't a total surprise, because if you look at a lot of the conversation on Slack, it's pretty popular. So, I mean, that was sort of, clear winner in terms of what people want to see next. So our next workshop, we're targeting late October, early November. We'll announce the exact dates, I mean, hopefully pretty soon. Our next workshop will focus on multi-tenancy. Wednesday seems like a good day in general. We have people from different parts of the world, but middle of the week seems good. But definitely way before Thanksgiving in the US, we'll target the last week of October or maybe the following week of November. And we'll have more formal announcements go out in the next few weeks with, not just dates, but agenda, registration details, et cetera, et cetera. So stay tuned for that. And then the other thing I did just yesterday, I renamed a Slack channel. We called it Pre-Aggregations Workshop, but I made it more generic so we can use it for all of our future events. And if you have any comments or suggestions for our multi-tenancy workshop, feel free to post your thoughts there. And just going quickly back to registration, like we did for our last workshop, we'll probably have some optional questions that you can answer, which we ask questions about which backend do you use, have you used pre-aggregations, and what topics do you want to see covered. And we'll probably repeat those. Not those exact questions, but we'll probably include like a 3 or 4 optional questions that people can answer in the registration, so that, definitely help us prepare for our workshop. So stay tuned for that. So let me pause here, make sure there are no questions. And I'll just move on to a couple of celebratory, updates, first one, thanks, Pavel, for pointing this out. Like on our internal site, I didn't even notice this. And then maybe Igor, the answer. We had internally we celebrated like a 10,000 GitHub stars. I think it was like a few months ago, right? And now we across 11,000. Obviously, which we're grateful for. So it's always good to see. So thanks for people who went through the trouble of adding stars on our repo. So we're very grateful for that. And the next one, not sure if Luke was able to join the call today, but one of the other conversations that we've been having off and on is about people were asking about Helm charts. And I think a number of community members sort of volunteered that they'll be happy to share the Helm charts that they're using. So what we did a couple of weeks ago was that I created a subfolder under examples called, not surprisingly, Helm charts, where you can contribute the Helm charts that you're using with the rest of the community. So Luke, definitely want to thank Luke for getting things started. I know he worked with Adnan and a couple of other people pretty diligently over a couple of weeks to get his Helm charts up there. And I think he, documented things very thoroughly in this README file. And so I appreciate Luke for getting things started, and hopefully we'll see more from other community members. And just, I added this in a short, a README file for Helm charts. These are, community supported, like community drivers. And then we have all the authors. The plan is to have the authors clearly listed for the Helm charts they're contributing, so you can reach out to them for questions and comments. And again, want to, encourage everyone to contribute the Helm charts. I think people will find it very, very helpful. So in that spirit, I'll pause here. I don't know if people have any questions. If not, I think, Igor, I'll stop sharing, and then so you can take control, because I think you're gonna do a live demo as well. So let me stop sharing, and I'll give you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. First of all, thanks for having me, and I'm happy to present here. Actually, I think that it might. Well, I'll be sharing my screen then. Okay, So I do have just a couple of slides to to show, and then we'll jump to the live demo. So let me then share my screen. Okay, just doing this right now. Yeah, cool. So hopefully you see this shiny new recipe section slide. And with that, actually I came here to share this addition to the documentation and examples on GitHub that we have in Cube, but even more to tell what it really means for Cube community. So the recipes which we've added to docs and to the examples folder on GitHub are basically short and self-contained runnable examples or solutions for use cases that often arise on conversations with developers in Cube community, and which we can often see on Slack. So basically, the first thing I should do is just to thank Cube community for actually being active on Slack and ask a lot of questions, which help us really understand the vibe and distilling key ideas from those conversations, actually what led us to creating the recipes. So what do I actually mean by short, self-contained, and runnable? So we're trying to focus on a single issue like in a single domain, like modeling something with regard to a common analytics task, or managing the control to data, or creating a data schema for a particular use case, or maybe accelerating the query, or just creating pre-aggregation for a particular use case. That's kind of so we're trying to address a single issue in that area, and also we are trying to use only the essential features required to implement a solution for that, and also like to mention everything you need to know and provide links to relevant documentation sections within a single recipe. And on top of that, every recipe is just a bunch, a really small number of code which you can find in a folder under like examples folder on GitHub, and actually every recipe can be run just straight in your machine, and you'll see the results. So shortly I'll just show you how this works. But having said that, I just encourage everyone to maybe to pay some attention to what's happening on Slack in the announcement channel, because there the team will be announcing like new recipes. Obviously, right now under the recipes section in docs, we have just maybe a dozen and a half recipes, and it's so much less than our backlog. But I encourage everyone to help us actually prioritize what we are doing by coming to Slack and asking about like solutions to the use cases that you're interested in, or maybe just posting something right now in Slack, leaving a comment on YouTube or anywhere else. We're eager to get your feedback, and yeah, expect new recipes to appear like on a regular basis. That's what we really commit to. So with this, I'd like to do a short demo. So let's see what we've got here. I'll start with actually the front page of Cube's website. So oh, that's a round number. So here we have the link to docs, and under docs we have this examples and tutorials section where you can find the recipes. So yeah, as I said, there is a number of recipes already in different areas, and this one is going to expand. But if we drill down to a particular recipe, let's take this one on pre-aggregations. You'll see that everyone is just structured in this form. So you have a use case, you have some instructions how to shape your data schema, some instructions on the Cube configuration if needed, and then in the very end, there's always link to the full source code. So yeah, it's really short. You can really follow it, and you can really reuse the knowledge that you're getting from there in your case. Hopefully it will be so. So I will not be diving deep into this particular recipe. However, I'd say it's really something that many Cube community members might benefit from, because here we are doing a really cool trick. I'm really excited about this. We are like as a part of this recipe, we are decomposing some non-additive and those I would say not pre-aggregatable, like in a general case, measure into a composition of a summon account, which are obviously like additive measures which can be pre-aggregated. Yeah, and but again, let's not be diving deep into this. So let me show you how this works. So here on my terminal, I have the most recent version of Cube.js repository, and so under examples and recipes, there are a lot of folders for existing recipes, and yeah, you can expect more folders to appear here. So with regard to this non-additivity, the recipes that I was demonstrating you in the browser window, we actually have just a really small number of files. Their Cube.js file with a configuration, and obviously there is not much to show in there. It's just empty. In this example, everything happens in the data schema. So if we go in there, we obviously find some cube definition, different measures and dimensions. But what I'm really happy to show you is that everything you need to do is just run docker compose up, and the docker compose file provided will start Cube, will configure it with the connection to database, and another container called query will run a few exemplary queries against the Cube instance. So you'll just see the results of running this Cube. So for this recipe, we're showing just a few queries with non-additive or additive measures, and also their pre-aggregations matched. So it really makes sense, like in with regard to this particular recipe. But what I really want everybody to get from here, just feel free to be running docker compose up in every folder, and you just see how this works. So this is also relevant for other examples. Just you can see that I have another one here called multiple data sources. Obviously, like, we're not going to read the text of it in the browser, but yeah, the idea here is to show how you can define cubes against different databases, different data sources, and provide configurations for them. So here, if we actually browse the contents of the Cube.js file, you see that the driver factory function is used. So we are checking what's in the security context, and based on the tenant provided, we either return a driver configured in the way we would like to, or actually failing the query by throwing an error. And again, if you run this recipe using docker compose up, you'll see Cube starting, being configured, and then when the query container runs, you actually see different results. Like for this tenant, we are getting this data. For another tenant, we are getting completely other data, and you also see that throw statement in the Cube.js file. It also has this effect. So Cube is showing an error here, and also you're able to see a request with this speech inc tenant not being successful. So yeah, you can see an error here. So yeah, with this, I encourage everyone just first to pay some attention to what's in the recipe section in the docs, and also I encourage everyone just to feel free to reach out to Cube team and provide any feedback that you have, and actually ask for some recipes to appear. We'll be happy to assist you and prioritize and contribute them. Yeah, that's all for recipes. And there is one more thing that I'm really happy to share with you. So just recently, just last week, I learned that a really wonderful conference is going to happen this fall. So it's called OSA Con, and here OSA stands for Open Source and Analytics. That's basically what we're all doing here. So I'm happy to ask everyone, to encourage everyone first to attend it, because I think it's going to be going to have really nice lineup. I know that this conference is organized by Altinity, which is a company providing like ClickHouse in the cloud. But what's more important is that Altinity already has some really great presence in the event space. They are organizing San Francisco Bay Area ClickHouse meetup. I also know that the open source analytics track on Percona Live database conference is basically crafted and made by folks from Altinity. So I believe OSACon is going to be just a really great one, and they are taking their inspiration from really great like examples in the industry. And what's even more important, I encourage everyone in the Cube community to actually create this amazing lineup at the OSACon by submitting your talks and your CFP proposals, because, well, actually that's a conference which connects those developers who create dev tools for analytics and open source, and those developers who actually use those tools to make great things. So that this is one of the best places for you to share your experience with Cube and other like open source analytics tools. So I'd really like everybody to to pay attention to it and possibly just contribute something to let it happen. So that's actually all that I wanted to share with you. I'm really happy that I've done this. So let me quickly check the chat. Oh yeah, thanks for the link.
Yeah. I mean, I just added I mean, this only shows like a partial list. I'm sure it's a partial list of all the like a pull requests that went there behind all the new recipes. I mean, you see one of them, like it's pretty epic, like a 42 comments going back and forth. So I appreciate Igor and your team members, Dan and Anton, working on it over the past month or so. Like, I mean, I get all the PRs in my inbox. So I was happy to get, happy to see a lot of great work being done. So I appreciate that. And then, yeah, and then nice find on that event space as well. So it looks like a pretty cool conference. And then, yeah, and I know like a couple of your team members are submitting talks, so hopefully we'll be a great opportunity for a lot of other folks to learn about Cube as well. So,
yeah,
cool. All right, so I guess next Ryan and Hassan's online as well. So yeah, Ryan, if you want to take control and share your screen,
yeah, sure.
I'll let you take the stage.
Okay, great. Yeah, my update should be fairly quick. Just have some product updates to go through for September. We have a third iteration of our rollup designer, which we're continuing to iterate on, which I'll show in the demo in a bit, as well as introducing rolling window rollups, which we're very excited about. There's a lot of people in the community who asked for this feature, and I'll show that in the demo as well. Just a couple UI updates on Playground. So we also added a copy to clipboard button for the SQL statement for each query that you're running in Playground, because we were noticing people wanted to just copy and paste the SQL over and, I don't know, play around in their database, see what's going on. And then when you're running queries and you realize, oh, I actually want to change some of the attributes of this query, you don't want to wait for it to finish running. So now if you make any changes in the attributes of that query, that will automatically cancel the running query in Playground. And then there are a couple of bug fixes as well. We saw an issue where Boolean values weren't showing up in table results. I think some of you reported that in Playground. And so that's been addressed. And there are also some bar graph UI issues where there's overlapping bars and things being cut off. So we fixed those as well. And with that, I'll go to the demo. So the first one is Rollup Designer V3. So for those of you who attended last week's call or the pre-ag workshop, we got very familiar with this Rollup Designer. It's a great tool for those of you who would prefer not to have to write code for the schema definitions of your pre-aggregation and would rather do it through a UI. So we just reorganized some things first on the main view. So now if I, for example, change anything on my pre-ag definition, you'll see now there's this warning symbol over next to this query compatibility tab, which if I click on that, it's going to notify me, hey, Ryan, your rollup doesn't match this query anymore. So, you know, just in case you wanted to have a pre-ag that would serve this particular query. So if I add that back, I can then see again, we're compatible with that particular query. So that's a nifty feature for being able to just check, like, is this query going to be served with this pre-aggregation that I'm defining? And then the major enhancement on this side is a settings tab for basically defining the refresh key or partitions. So I hope a lot of you are using partitions to help increase the efficiency around refreshing your pre-aggregations. But so this will allow for you to define your partitions as well without having to write any code, which I was noticing on the workshop that there was a lot of errors some folks reported with typos in this particular section of defining the rollup. So I'm really happy that this is now out there so that we don't see any more of these typos, hopefully, and it will be easier to define these partitions for your pre-aggregation. And yes, I think I mentioned refreshes key as well. So you can, change it. You can add a SQL statement to have the refresh key, for example, just have the refresh happen on whenever the latest order has been updated, or define a cron expression for when you would like to schedule the refreshes. So we're getting very close to, there's only one feature missing, which some of you may see as missing, is the build range start and end. We just have to make a little update for that on the core side. Once that's ready, then we'll be able to also expose that through this rollup designer, and you won't have to write any code for any rollup definitions. And then the last thing I wanted to show was the rolling window rollup. So this is an example of, I can just go to that. This is it's easier for me to just show in Cube Cloud because I can see the schema in the same view. But I've just defined a pre-aggregation for a rolling window. You can see there's my measure for rolling count month, which is of type count, and it's the rolling window is over a month period. For those of you who are not as familiar with rolling window measures, this can be unbounded. This can be a leading rolling window versus trailing. This is discussed quite well in the docs in terms of how this works. But for a while, we didn't support pre-aggregations, which had rolling window measures. So we're finally there. So you can see I've got this rolling count per month measure, and yes, my query was accelerated with a pre-aggregation. So hopefully that's helpful for all of you who are using rolling windows in your queries. And that's it. So if there are any questions, I can answer those about the product updates. If not, I'll hand it back to Ray.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Any questions on the demo or the updates that Ryan provided? Hopefully people were able to see it, but yeah, I know rolling window rollups was a pretty popular discussion topic, so glad that we're moving ahead with that. And oh, and then I think I may have mentioned when I talked about Helm charts that Luke's not online, but I was mistaken. If you see LB on the Zoom participants, that's Luke. So again, thanks Luke for contributing that, but for some reason I didn't connect, like LB was Luke on, and he was online. Any questions or comments for
I feel a bit bad because this isn't quite related to the demos, but Igor, did you have a custom like logging going on there in your example? Okay, it was logging different colors and it was all formatted, and I was curious if that is something.
So you mean the color in the terminal, right?
Not quite the color, but maybe I just have a different way that it displays on my terminal, but it just looked interesting. Okay, it had little formatting bits. And...
Well, if you let me just quickly share my screen again, I think that actually like the different colors in here they come like from Docker, because it's color in different containers, like in different colors, and overall the support for coloring is because I'm using that shell, as you can see here. So probably what like the actual image we have.
Yeah, I kind of just meant like the dashes and the different line breaks and stuff, and yeah, clearly just a slightly different like terminal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I forgot about other things. So I'm using this kind of I don't know what's that shell's theme called P10K. So yeah, that's actually something that you might just explore. Yeah, this is something that it actually contributes to all these different like timers and symbols. Yeah, well, actually it can get more. It can get fancier than this. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Okay.
Cool. Other questions? Dan, hopefully your first community call was helpful. Like, thanks for joining. I know this is your first time. But...
This is great.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, awesome. So cool. I guess we'll end it about. Oh, I think there's a comment from JC. Some of the formatting was Docker Compose, but I think that's similar to what Igor you already said. But cool. All right. Well, thanks for the feedback and confirmation, JC. All right. We'll end it about 8 minutes early. Hopefully, you'll have a good rest of the month. And yeah, look out for the announcements on the next multi-tenancy workshop. And have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.